Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now is Ojy Okpe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Ojy.
Good morning, Dr. Bati. How are you?
I'm good.
Good morning,
Leila.
How are you?
Good, thank you. And good morning to you, viewers. We begin what's trending today in Nigeria. The federal government says Nigeria now ranks #1 in the world with people practicing open defecation. The Minister of Water Resources, Sulaiman Adamu, disclosed this while declaring a 2-day private sector forum on sanitation yesterday in Abuja. The forum was set up by the Organized Private Sector on Sanitation with the theme coordinating indigenous private sector initiatives to end open defecation in Nigeria. On October 2nd, India stopped being the world #1 country with the highest number of people practicing open defecation in the world. According to the minister, Nigeria currently ranks #1 in terms of the number of people practicing open defecation in Africa. It is approximated that 47 million people do not have access to sanitation services in its most basic form. I mean, this is quite shocking.
I'm not surprised, though.
I mean, in 2018, I believe President Muhammadu Buhari, declared a state of emergency on sanitation, and there was a national campaign that came up, with the
making
theme,
Nigeria open defecation free by 2025.
So you would expect that, that whole campaign would, go into all these communities to try to educate them on the risks of open defecation. So I'm quite surprised that instead of us getting down the chain, we're now #1.
Has implications for public health.
Yeah.
Also for individual health. And, it's an area in which I think government has this program they call the WASH program.
Yeah. Yes, as well.
Which is supposed to be part of our focus on sustainable development goals. But, the responsibility is at all levels of government. First, access to water. Second, public enlightenment about sanitation. And then also about hygiene. These are just basic things, that speak to decency in society, the health of our communities, and the level of, don't let me use that word, permit me to say also level of civilization. Because when you look around on the streets of Nigeria and you see people defecating openly, even in urban areas, not just in the rural areas,
absolutely.
It's a very bad comment on our sanitation and hygiene program.
Absolutely. And it's also the lack of access that people have to sanitation and to water as well. People don't have toilets at home.
Absolutely.
And, there was even a report I read recently that was talking on the direct risk or the direct correlation between not having access to toilets and sanitation and them being sexually harassed. And 56% of women reported that they're scared to go out and use the toilets because they don't have one at home and they have been harassed.
Absolutely. Because when they go out at night, they probably have the risk of getting raped and all that.
I don't know whether you have heard of it. When you talk of open defecation, you're also talking about what Nigerians call bush attack. I don't know whether you know what that means.
This is where the hijab came from with Prophet Muhammad back in the day. This is literally in history. It started with Prophet Muhammad all the way back in the day. It's crazy, and now we're having that problem in Nigeria till today.
Well, I think that it's a great initiative that they've started, but I think that also it starts within our community. I believe back in May, a community in Kano State had this imposed a fine for children. They have to pay 2,000 naira if they catch you defecating in public, and adults 3,000 naira. So, and I think that community has really found a way to resolve their problems. And I think, and then there's one guy who drives around to find anybody who's defecating in public.
Have you not seen across Nigeria, notices, do not urinate here, and then you will find somebody who will go right in front of that notice.
Yeah, but the thing is, this one guy made it a thing that he would be driving around. He's not looking for crime, he's not looking for anything, but he's looking for the one person who would disobey that law. And I think that if you just impose just those tiny little things within your community, it will be very effective to find a way to...
But the question is, where are the toilets for the people to use? That's the thing. They're not choosing to openly defecate. They don't have facilities.
Because it would be difficult to criminalize it.
That's why it's hard to criminalize, because we're going to criminalize something when we're not even putting the provisions in for the people. The government just needs to take this campaign so much more seriously than they are.
Well, it's not just the government. I mean, within your community, there are private sectors.
Right,
there are private people that can actually build toilets, and there are things that you could do, like
and new technologies
and all of those things.
Exactly.
Have you used a public toilet in Nigeria before? Because even when you build the toilets, and the toilets are available, say in a market or somewhere, the other challenge is one of maintenance.
Correct.
Try and visit a public toilet, the few ones that are available.
Yes.
And you will not do so a second time.
Yeah. Right. Well,
honestly.
Well, hopefully by 2025, like the national campaign states, hopefully this will be eradicated and our country will
be cleaner.
It's not just the hygiene; it's also, the health crisis, especially with children. Approximately
87,000 Nigerian children dying from diarrhea.
Absolutely, every year. It's appalling, really. Well, let's head over to social media. Instagram has placed fresh rules that bans images which may encourage suicide or self-harm, adding drawings and other fictional content to the list. The Facebook-owned image and video sharing service earlier this year clamped down on images of self-injury after a British teen who went online to read about suicide took her own life. With the rule change earlier this year, Instagram began removing references to non-graphic content relating to people hurting themselves from its searches and recommendation features. It also banned hashtags relating to self-harm. The measures were meant to make such images more difficult to find for depressed teens who might have suicidal tendencies. I mean, this is about time. I don't know why it's
taken this long,
I mean, this child died in 2017. I mean, I don't know how a platform with that magnitude, the amount of people using their platform, have access to graphic content like that would cause, death or suicide. So I think that is an important development with Instagram. And I think that, teenagers, parents especially, should continue to monitor their children. And it's not just for teenagers. I think also for us adults.
Monitor ourselves,
Sometimes we're even, I don't even think it's just, even the pressure on Instagram, the pressure on all these images would definitely make you depressed.
And when you don't even realize it yourself, you don't realize that you're picking up into a culture and a trend. It's crazy. It's crazy what social media can do.
Well, you're right. It's a good development, but it's not just Instagram. Across all the online platforms, a lot more needs to be done to protect the health, the mental health of persons who use those platforms. And this will go beyond, suicide-related materials to issues like pedophilia,
Absolutely.
to issues like hate speech, to issues like the manipulation of those online platforms for political purposes. What was called the Trump rule, on Twitter, which Twitter has not followed through. And of course, we've had cases of many of these companies being fined, or being taken, being penalized either in Europe or the United States. But a lot needs to be done because technology is the future.
Absolutely.
We're in the digital age. And the more vulnerable we are, the more diligent the owners of the platforms should be.
All right. Well, let's take a fascinating story in China. A 67-year-old retired doctor has given birth in China, potentially making her the country's oldest new mother. The woman gave birth to a girl at the hospital where she had worked as a doctor before retiring in the country's northeastern Shandong province. A hospital spokeswoman said the woman fell pregnant naturally after using her medical knowledge to self-administer traditional Chinese fertility treatments. The baby was delivered via cesarean section and weighed 5.6 pounds at birth.
Wow.
I know. I thought it was such an amazing
This has to do with China's one-child policy.
Yes.
When that policy was revised, a lot of women in China then decided to have more children. In the particular case of this family, the woman and her husband, they already have 2 children.
And plenty grandchildren.
They have 8 grandchildren. Yeah. And the daughter, resisted the idea of the woman, having another child.
Yeah.
But here she is. It's a triumph for biology because it was pointed out that she's 67,
Yeah.
but her ovaries
did not shrink like a 60, like a 60-year-old.
The ovaries of a 40-year-old.
And
So
this
that's
is what
how
I
it made
love
your
to see.
natural
We know how men always have these discussions of, a woman can't give birth after a certain age, etc.
Yes.
I'm always like, no, it's actually dependent on the woman. And
Yes.
now we have a 67-year-old woman basically showing everyone that it can be done.
Yeah, so what a man can do, a woman can do even
Well,
better.
Thank you very much.
We want to get started this morning.
So we'll see you tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow, Dr.
See you tomorrow, Ojy. Thank you.